Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
We had to summit an active volcano. I was the newest person on the team. At the moment, I was the sickest person on the team, or so I thought. Two of my teammates, they had to go back down. And now I was suddenly the person that everybody was counting on.
Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
Today we are speaking with Robyn Benincasa.
I've just been an athlete my whole life, but then I discovered the sport of adventure racing.
Robyn Benincasa.
Robyn Benincasa.
Robyn Benincasa.
Two-time adventure racing world champion.
3-time Guinness Endurance paddling world record holder.
How can teens exit their victim mentality and use setbacks as fuel for their comeback?
Sometimes it's something that happened to you, and sometimes that becomes who you are. That kind of occurred to me after.
Top 3 tips to persevere through challenges.
It's not like doing something that's never been done before, like this big challenge. It's the day-to-day quiet perseverance, doing the little things.
Setting these amazing and meaningful goals, but how can we set them without getting overwhelmed?
People, they overshoot on their big goals, but
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Welcome, Robyn.
Hello, ladies, and hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Thanks for welcoming me to the podcast.
Yes, we are so thrilled to have you on today. You're a world champion adventure racer, a motivational speaker, so inspiring. What led you to take an interest in, as you call it on your website, extreme performance?
I guess I've just been an athlete my whole life, from gymnastics. Let me go through it chronologically. Gymnastics, springboard diving, track, cross country, triathlons, judo, adventure racing, and ultra distance paddling. And ultra distance cycling. And so I just kind of grew up doing all these different sports. First it was, sort of the individual sports, but then after doing triathlon for a number of years, I discovered the sport of adventure racing.
If our episodes help you hack your happiness and find a small bit of happiness in every day, be sure to share this episode with a teen in your life or anyone in your life who could use a small bit of happiness, as well as shop our happiness wellness products to bring a small bit of happiness to your home, linked in the description.
And it was just, kind of one of those moments where I'd read about the sport in runner's world, and I just had like the goosebumps, like, oh, this is what I was meant to do. Like, because my body likes to go really long, but not super fast. So I was trying to find like the sport that was like the longest, craziest, silliest thing. And when I discovered adventure racing, I knew I had found like what I was meant to do. Like, with my background and talent and, my grittiness. And then when I discovered sort of the extreme performance and extreme teamwork piece came in, where that's a sport where you're with a team of people for up to 7 to 10 days racing nonstop, and you have to be within 50 yards of each other. And so it's 4 or 5 people on a team, depending on the rules, but everyone has to stay completely together. And if one person quits, your entire team is disqualified. So it kind of led us to creating, what we called extreme teamwork, because really the teamwork was the whole key to getting each other, to winning these races. And we started winning them very consistently because of our mindset and our extreme teamwork and how we took care of each other and how we weren't just out there with each other like the other teams. We were out there for each other. And so we created, sort of this culture among our team. And it was different team members coming in and out, but it was like, that mindset, that culture that you create on a winning team. And so that's what I ended up kind of speaking about was, how do we make teams so consistently high performing in the craziest of challenges? And I've been doing that for a long, long time, but it just kind of started with, kind of me finding out what I was meant to do. And that's one of the important things to share with you guys too, is that, as you're growing up, it's important to like pay attention to what you're really great at, like what comes easier to you than other people, what you sort of shine at, where you're better at things than some other people who are just picking it up. Like that's your natural strength and your natural talent. And so like really taking note of that, because I think some of our happiness and our success comes from knowing what we're great at and kind of taking that vein of gold that's in each of us and following that path. Like, okay, I'm not so good at this, but I'm better at this. And I'm not great at that, but I'm better at this. And this comes easier to me than most people. And you sort of cobble together, what your real strength and your real talent is. And then you follow it. And, I think a lot of our happiness and success comes from paying attention to who we are and what we love and what we're great at, and making a career out of it.
That is incredible. And what I really love about your story, Robyn, is how you took such like an extreme sport. Like, first of all, you followed your passion for athletics and movement and sport. And then with that team mentality, you took that from adventure racing to helping companies like Starbucks or Walmart build up a better culture within their own brand. And I think it's so interesting and fascinating, to me at least, how something that is so like tangible and like survival and like athletic can also apply to everyday life, to our lives, the importance of connection, the importance of being able to collaborate with others in life. And so that's why I find your work so incredibly moving, because, we all need to rely on others in order to be successful and to be happy. Like, so much of our happiness comes from connection with people in life. And so I think that's an important skill that a lot of people can develop.
Totally. And I love how you also harnessed the skill that you have, like you mentioned, being able to notice what your own personal skill is, and that comes easiest to you, and then saying, hey, this is what I'm best at, and now I can help other people with that, especially in your own group when you're leading them through the wilderness, or when you're speaking to Walmart or Starbucks or huge brands and companies like that.
Because I think a lot of times, like as teens, we look around us and we see people doing like a set amount of things, like sports, or maybe, drama, or maybe they're doing some community work, volunteering. And it's realizing that, like, if you're not really inclined to any of those things, maybe you're inclined to something different, it's okay to explore that. Like, Anastasia and I were never big athletic people. We were never doing sports. All of our friends do sports at school and at clubs. And what we realized is, like, if I'm not inclined towards that, I'm going to go in a different direction, and I can be equally successful in something else.
Totally, and just looking what you're drawn towards more.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to not just, just pick a thing because somebody else is doing it. Or, because you whatever, the cool kids are doing this or the cool kids are doing that. As I was a total late bloomer in life. Like, I was never one of the cool kids. I was never I was always looked and felt a lot younger than everybody else. But my strength happened, as an adult. And so I never worried about that I wasn't, one of the cool kids, because I knew that, my strength was the long run. My strength was going to be later. But it really is it's having that self-confidence to say, I need to know myself. I need to understand my strengths and my own talents, and follow. And I always call it that vein of gold, like that vein of gold inside yourself. And you keep following that path and trying different things. And I think it's so important to, I think to myself, I have to search, like every time I've completed a goal and I need a next one, I'm like, I have to search and search and search until I find the thing that wakes me up at night, like to dream about it, to think about it. Because when you have a great idea for yourself, like you get goosebumps, like all of a sudden that thing hits you and you're like, yes, that's what I'm meant to do. That's what we need to do. And you just need to keep searching for that. And I think sometimes, we get caught in trying to be happy with, what other people are doing, or, and I think just having that, your own self-confidence to say, I'm going to find that vein inside myself. I'm going to find my passion. I'm going to find my purpose, and, just not worry about what anybody else is doing.
Totally, just staying on your own path and realizing that everybody has their own journey and that yours is unique to your own. And I love that kind of mentality of looking for a goal that really motivates you, that makes you wake up in the middle of the night. I feel like that's such a great mindset, like I said before, to kind of be looking for that thing that really pushes you, but also really excites you and makes you want to become a better and, more defined of a you person.
Totally.
And you've experienced so many amazing and different experiences through all of your amazing races. What do you think your greatest challenge has been so far through your entire journey?
I mean, certainly it was, in these crazy adventure races, you're going through some of the most extreme things you can imagine within, within a safe-ish setting. Like we always had a radio, but we were hanging off the side of mountains and swimming class 4 rapids and nearly dying at 18,000 feet racing in Tibet and Nepal and high altitude pulmonary edema. And, but the neat thing about all these races, and we did over 40 of them in like 17 years. Like we just raced and raced and raced. And so you're out there, no shelter, minimal food, like 7 to 10 days, and you're racing nonstop if you want to win. And so, I mean, some of the more extreme things that we had to do were in the World Championships in Ecuador. We had to summit a 19,700 foot active volcano in the middle of the race. Like after not sleeping for 3 days, and we had to climb this thing on day 4. And we're racing the top team in the world, and we're literally trying to race up a mountain that takes people, people kind of leave a week to climb it, to acclimatize and go up and down. And we're racing up it. And we were just all a complete train wreck. We're all just destroyed. Our O2 saturations mine was 71%, which, as a firefighter, if your O2 saturation is below 95 or so, we're taking you to the hospital. So like my blood wasn't perfusing oxygen, and I mean, a lot of the other people on the team were in similar condition, but I was the worst. And so the race directors looked at us at this hut at 15,000 feet before we were going to try to go to 20. And it was just us and our biggest competitor, the top French team, had gotten to this hut in the middle of the night at the same time. And they said, okay, you guys all look so bad that we're going to change the rules right now. As long as you get 3 people to the top of this mountain, you can continue in the race. And so there were some tactical decisions we had to make because each team had 5 people. And you could leave somebody at the hut, or you could take them to 18,000 feet and then they could come back down. But there were different levels of penalties for not getting everybody to the top. I was the newest person on the team. At the moment, I was the sickest person on the team, or so I thought. And we start climbing, and at 18,000 feet, 2 of my teammates, who were the best racers in the world, they had to go back down. The race doctor told them they had to go back down. And so it was suddenly on me, because they were having high altitude pulmonary edema. It was suddenly on me and the 2 other guys to try to get to the top of this mountain, or we'd be out of the race. And so it was like literally a life-changing moment for me, because I was the newest person on the team. I was the only woman on the team. And I had a 71% or less than that at 18,000 feet, under 70% oxygen saturation. And I was so afraid I was going to be the person that held everybody up. And now I was suddenly the person that everybody was counting on, to try to get to the top of this mountain. And I just remember that as just for me being a life-changing moment, because the 2 best guys in the sport looked at me and said, you can do this. You got to get us to the top of this mountain. And in that moment of just my teammates believing in me so far beyond reason, and so much more than I imagined or believed in myself. And in the video of this race, they made a show about it, but I suddenly go from crying and eating my cookie in the snow, wondering how I'm going to get back down, to standing up and going, yes, I can do this. I can do this. And it was really the power, not just of sport, but of other human beings to elevate each other. And, it was their decision to go back down because they knew I was strong enough to go up with the other 2 guys. And I will never forget, how someone else believing in you so deeply literally changes your life. And so that's a gift you can give other people too, is believing in people beyond reason, and giving them respect as a gift and not holding it back as a grade. Just, yeah, that moment, not only changed my life in sport, but just changed my life and made me realize, I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to be scared. If I have a great team around me, and we believe in each other, we take care of each other. You can climb a mountain you can never climb alone, figuratively, even you can pick a bigger goal than you can accomplish alone. And when you're roped up to other people who have each other's back and who believe in each other, and who are going to put out as much effort for you as for themselves, your chance to success just skyrocket. And I think in life, we don't reach out to other people enough as much as we could. And so that's what, this crazy sport taught me, is that, relying on other people isn't a weakness. It's how you win.
100%. And I think that is so important, relying on other people and recognizing that when we go through a challenge, we are better together with other people. And also how, I think your story goes to show and indicates how those who we surround ourselves with have such a profound impact on us. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who don't believe in you and who don't encourage you to be your best self, that can be really detrimental, just as, impactful it can be to have people who believe in you, and you can literally do what you might not be able to otherwise had it not been for those incredible team members.
Totally. And having a community of people that believe in you and that you believe in as well is so important, so that we can not only elevate ourselves in being able to climb the mountain, but also being able to do those challenges that we might perceive to be too hard, or that we might perceive to be really difficult. Because I know when we were starting Small Bits of Happiness, it was a big challenge, but we surrounded ourselves with people who believed in us. Our family was so supportive, and together we were able to start this, and we've been so successful because of our amazing and supportive community.
Exactly.
Yeah, even if you have an individual goal, think about an Olympian who is standing there on the podium with the gold medal around their neck. And yes, they have the gold medal, but they did not do that alone. They understood that, okay, I have my coaches, I have my teammates that are going to push me. I have my nutritionist. I have my, my psychotherapist. I have, all these people around me who are helping me succeed. And we don't have to be an island. And I always say, choose a goal you can never accomplish alone and build a team to get there. Even if it's an individual goal, it doesn't have to be a team sport or a team thing. Set an individual goal and then say, okay, who do I have in my universe, that can support me in some way to get to this goal? And maybe there's a way I can support them too. It's not just, just a taking thing. It's okay, let's barter our strengths with each other, and share our challenges with each other. And we're all going to be able to get to our goals a lot faster. And I do think that, that especially as you become an adult, you becomes in some cases more of an island, and you feel like you have to do things yourself. And I learned that you can have much bigger goals if you don't do things yourself. If you find people that have strengths and talents and skills and background experience that you don't have, and you rope up to them.
Absolutely. I think just surrounding yourself with people who will just make you even better than you are, and realizing that I can be a more independent person if I actually have better people in my life who I can rely upon, rather than just always wanting to be, I can do it myself, realizing the importance of those social connections. And so you've evidently learned so many incredible things about problem solving and perseverance through your adventure racing and through your time with your incredible team members. And so I think teenagers experience challenges that are obviously different from scaling a volcano or a mountain or going through rapids. But I think that some of the strategies, at least in some ways, can be very similar or relatable to what you went through. And so what would you say, Robyn, are your top 3 tips to persevere through challenges, be it at school, in daily life, with people that are members of our community, just any challenge, really?
So, well, first of all, build a team. I think we got that drilled in. Don't get so overwhelmed by the big thing. I think you have to make little chunks. when you're trying to climb a mountain, it's literally one step at a time. If you're constantly looking at the big thing, it can be overwhelming. You have to pick small little victories along the way. When you're running a marathon or even a life marathon, at first you're oh, first 5 miles, great. Okay. Second 5 miles, great. Then you get to mile 18 and that last 10 miles or 8 miles seems so overwhelming that you actually just start going from light pole to light pole. I'm just going to make it to the next light post. I'm just going to make it to the next, whatever, stoplight. And so when things get really crazy, just pick smaller goals, smaller little chunks, no matter how small those chunks are, but keep moving forward, keep moving forward toward them, but make them into smaller and smaller chunks that seem okay to you, so you're not overwhelmed. And I think sometimes like people just pick this huge goal, but they don't work backwards and say, okay, what are the little steps I need, to actually get there? And so like when I talk about, where does our grittiness come from? I think a lot of it is, the kind of that, it's not like, that big gritty, like that doing something that's never been done before, like this big challenge. It's the day-to-day quiet perseverance, doing the little things that are going to, the little things in your training and your preparation that are going to get you to where you want to go. I think sometimes we get this wild hair and pick this big goal, but then we don't actually put in the training. We don't actually put in the time. And so when I kind of talk about grittiness, in my brain, it's like an acronym for grit. Like you're going the distance, quietly persevering, believing in yourself, unwavering in your patience and faith is the you, but then also taking calculated risks, and shattering the norm. So, I think people think of this gutsy move as this totally out of the box, crazy thing. But that when you get an A on a test, that was because you studied your butt off. It's not because I dreamed about getting an A on a test. I think you just got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. And I think sometimes people want to get right to the finish line without putting in the work. And so, yeah, I think it's very important to not only have goals, but make digestible chunks, to get to those goals and put in the time, do the training. The games are won in the training. The races are won in the training. The tests, you get A's in the studying. And so, I mean, it's critical that you don't skip those pieces. And then you can have bigger, crazy, hairier goals. When you have all those pieces in place, you have your inspiration, you have your teammate, you have your chunkified goals, that get when you're training for a triathlon. You don't go out and ride 112 miles on your bike and run a marathon. You go there slowly. Each week you go further and further and further and faster and faster and faster. And I don't dismiss the work. I mean, you got to do the work, period.
It's so true. It's important to not just expect results, but rather to get there gradually and watch ourselves get there.
And I love the kind of idea of, pacing yourself instead of trying to jump to the top of the mountain or finish the entire race. And instead you're kind of breaking it up into little chunks so then you can celebrate once you pass that light post or that stoplight, and it becomes much more achievable for yourself, and it also feels like you're celebrating the way through, and it's not just this ongoing thing that will never end until you reach that ongoing goal, because oftentimes these goals can be a lot more long-lasting. So then again, I think going backwards and thinking, how can I just kind of interval it so that I can push myself a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of the happiness comes from too, right? Is getting those little goals. But you it's not just, oh, I did this big thing. It's every single day I moved my little ball down the field, toward my goal. And, I think it's important to move that ball down the field every single day, not just, kick the ball across the field, but move the ball like slowly down the field and celebrate. Yes. Celebrate the little things as you get there and put more things to celebrate. I think we're happiest when we have a goal and we're moving towards it. And, so I've always wished for all of my nieces and nephews to, when they were born, I was like, please let them have goals and dreams, let them have goals and dreams, and the means to make it happen. Not monetary means, but, great team and great support around them. Because I think we're lost, just as people, I think we're lost when we don't have a big goal. Life isn't Netflix and chill. That's what you do. That's what you do after you've done something hard that day. It's like, wake up, do the hard things, study for that test, learn that new language, go out and train for a sport that you love or a goal that you have. Do the hard stuff first, chill later, but only after you've had the success, because there's so much more happiness in the chilling when you've earned it. And I think sometimes like we go right to the chilling part before we've actually earned it. And I think you're missing your happiness of being proud of yourself that day. And so I think it's the first thing you should do is come out of the blocks every day going, what is the thing I'm going to do right now that's going to make me proud of myself today? And you don't go to bed until you've done something to make yourself, proud of yourself that day.
Yes. I love that so much. Like, just don't undermine the chill and the unwinding and the relaxation aspect of that, but still first, like, put in the time and effort to grow as a person. Even if it's just a little, like, even if you're tired, it's okay to, move a bit slower sometimes, but still kind of try to push it forward, keep going even when you're a little bit tired. Like, take breaks, but also keep pushing forward. And so we've spoken a lot about the importance of not just taking, encouragement from others, but also giving encouragement to people in our lives. So what do you think are a few traits of a good team member?
Empathy is really important. That ability to care about the people around you as much, if not more so than you care about yourself. I mean, you have to truly and deeply care about getting that person across the finish line. Whatever that finish line, is. I think you have to be like honest and truthful with people about, not just sugarcoat things, but be transparent, be honest. Especially, like when we were racing, I loved it when my teammates were honest, and instead of trying to just bull their way through something and push themselves too far, they would just say, "Hey, I'm sucking. I'm sucking back here." Like, that was a signal like, "Hey, somebody take some of my weight." Instead of me going into the hole and destroying myself. So I think, on that, in a team situation, you have to just be really, very honest with one another about where you are and what you need, and leave your ego at the start line. I think it's the heaviest thing in your pack. And, when you operate with ego first, you're not going to be able to get as far as you would if you had that humility and you accepted help and you asked for help, from other people. And also building the right team, like your relationship, your marriage, like that's the most important teammate that you have in your life. And so you have to choose so wisely, and don't, when you're picking a team, and teams go in and out of your life, but, make sure they're people that are kind of serving each other in some way, like positively. Like, how can I serve you? How can I help you get closer to your goals? The minute you see a teammate that is dragging you backwards in any way, or holding you back, or holding you in place, no, that's not your teammate. That's not your friend. No matter how long they've been in your circle, or how much you want to be with them, never surround yourself with people who don't love your show, believe in your show, and want you to succeed. And the same, you should be helping the people around you. Like, how can I help you succeed? What can I do for you? How can I just make your day better? And that's also a source of happiness too, is helping other people. Like, it's moving the ball towards your own goal, having their own purpose, but also helping other people. Like, are the two most important sources of happiness, in my opinion, is, moving towards a goal, but also helping others achieve theirs. And that's why I started Project Athena.
Yes.
Yes. I love how you tied that to happiness. I mean, totally. One of our favorite habits of happiness is helping others. It's so important because you both benefit. Everyone's feeling happier. Even the people watching and surrounding can feel happier. And I also love how you mentioned honesty, because I feel like oftentimes when we're in a team, we want to make sure that everyone feels good, which is totally important. We don't want to be putting other people down. But, if you are having a rough time, saying, hey, I need some help is totally okay, because that's the point of having a team. That's the point of having a supportive network, is so that they can help you out, not just so that they can spend time with you, which is important, but so that they can pull you out during that time. And I also love how you said, leave your ego at the start line, because I feel like when we're carrying stuff like, oh, but this is how I should be acting, or this is how I want to be. But if you need help, you need help. Like, you can't choose that, you don't want to ask for help because that's just going to negatively impact you. And I also love how you mentioned Project Athena, which is a nonprofit that helps women survivors of medical and other traumatic setbacks achieve their amazing adventurous dreams. So the concept of turning one's setback into a comeback is so inspiring, but it's really challenging to tap into this. So how can teens exit their victim mentality and use setbacks as fuel for their comeback?
Well, I think it's in how you define yourself or how you want to define yourself. Am I a victim of this thing? And in some cases, yes, you are, but you have to decide whether that's who you are. Not, like sometimes it's something that happened to you, and sometimes that becomes who you are. And you can't let a setback become who you are. It can be something that happened to you, and that's something everything happens to people in life. Sometimes you have this setback. But I think it's important to define ourselves with how we create our comeback story, not defined by our setback. And so that kind of occurred to me after, years and years and years of racing. I discovered I had end stage osteoarthritis in both my hips. So I've actually had 6 hip replacements over the last 10 years. So I have these super cool, like metal spikes down both my femurs, and it looks really cool on x-rays, and I can't get through the airport without going through the little twirly thing. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to not define myself by the setback. I'm going to turn this into a comeback story. And so through all those weeks and months on crutches, I was like, well, I can't really run right now, but I bet I can get my butt in a boat and paddle. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to create my comeback story as an ultra endurance paddler. So I would, just crutch down to the side of the water, leave my crutches on the beach, and get in a boat and go train for ultra distance kayaking races. Because I was like, I'm not going to focus on what I can't do. I'm going to focus on what I can do. And what I can do, I still have the whole upper half of my body here. I can still do that. So I just, started ultra distance paddling, and I got really freaking good at it. And I set a Guinness World Record for longest distance paddled in a boat in 24 hours by a female up on the Yukon River in Canada. And I set the course record at the Missouri River 340, which is a 340-mile nonstop paddle across the whole state of Missouri. And I discovered a whole new strength I didn't even realize I had by just focusing what I could do instead of what I couldn't do. And that also led me to start Project Athena, because what we do at Project Athena is we take survivors who've had medical or traumatic setbacks and help them turn it into their comeback story through endurance sports. So we take survivors every year, and we do, right now, I think we have 3 adventures that we do every year. And they're big honking adventures. These aren't little, but we train people for 5 months leading up to them, little chunks. But these are big, hairy adventures that like hiking all the way across the Grand Canyon in one day, twice. So we go rim to rim in one day, and then we go rim to rim the next day. So we do a rim to rim to rim in 2 days, which is 45 miles, 12,000 feet of elevation gain. It's gnarly. We're hiking, 14 to 16 hours a day for 2 days. We also do a kayak and bike ride from Key Largo to Key West. So we go 120 miles riding bikes and kayaking without touching a car. We start in Key Largo and we end up all the way in Key West. And we do a marathon walk up the coast of San Diego. And I'm creating another adventure where we're going to go 75 miles in 2 days kayaking and riding, multi-sport in San Diego. So we basically show survivors how badass they are after a big life setback. And we do it with a team. So we all stay together as one big team. And so the idea and we've been doing this now, for 16 years, taking survivors on adventurous dreams as part of their recovery. And, not only do they realize how amazing they are, physically still and mentally, grittiness that they have, but we also do it as one big team. We stay completely together from start to finish, all 30 or 40 people. And we're all helping each other out. We're towing each other. We're carrying each other. We're singing to each other. We're pushing each other up the street. And so it really just kind of, really changes lives personally, but then also, that idea that I don't have to do this alone. I can pick goals I would never accomplish on my own and build a great team to get there. And so it's the best thing in the world because it's all the best stuff. It's the purpose, it's the goals, it's the teamwork, and actually anybody can come with us. You don't have to be a survivor. We also take volunteers who we call our gods and goddesses, and they do the adventure with us every step of the way. So if anybody out there has a wild hair to do something big, and I lead all of them, so I will see you out there. But if you have a wild hair to do something big, Project Athena is the place to do it.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible and so inspiring to hear how, you went from having surgery and hip replacements to finding something that you're really incredible at, training at it, setting records, like becoming a professional essentially. And I just think that's such an important reminder because I think a lot of teenagers, we go through experiences and like obviously maybe they're not as physical as a hip replacement, or though for some it might be, maybe for other people it's like a friendship issue or a family issue or a different health issue, and we get into this mindset. I think the victim mindset is very common because of things that we also see on social media, kind of perpetuating that. It's like, oh, it's not my fault. And while it might not be your fault that something has happened, it is your active choice on how you're going to respond to it and keep on going. Are you going to sit in this self-sadness, or are you going to, find a new strength and a new skill like you did? And I think that we can all find some version of that. And that's why I think Project Athena is incredible, because it shows like what a good community can do for you, what getting outside of your comfort zone can do for you, what kind of shifting your mindset from what I can't to what I can do for you. And so I think we all need to kind of find a Project Athena within our own life.
And I also love how it can push you to not just realizing what you can and can't control, but it also makes you realize that you're so much more capable than you actually thought. Because I feel like oftentimes we actually underestimate how capable we are of actually doing something because we haven't really tried it, or we haven't really pushed ourselves that far, and we also don't really have that great community. And so I think realizing that, I think that Navy SEALs have this system called the 80%, where when they start feeling tired and like they can't do something, they realize that they're at their 80%, they're not at 100%, and they'll keep pushing through that, right? And so I think that's a really great mantra to have, that, you're not at your capacity. You still have something more left in you. You still have so much left.
Yeah.
Especially that can come out through the support of others.
And I think that that's what's so important and so incredible about your work is like you help people find a new community through like what may have been a struggle in their life. And so I think that that's a sign for all of us as teens. Like if you're going through something hard and you feel like you're not connecting well to your community, like maybe sign up for a club or join an extracurricular, or, find an online forum or somewhere where you can connect with other people who you may not have met if it wasn't for this challenge in your life.
And finding new forms of control, because I feel like so much of our lives as teenagers, we feel like we don't have that kind of control. We're searching for that. So by, saying, I can control if I'm spending time learning. Maybe I want to learn a new language, so I'm going to focus my energy on here. Or maybe I really, really love doing this sport, but I'm injured, so I'm going to focus on a different aspect of it. Maybe if you were injured playing soccer, finding a different realm of it, maybe focusing more on watching it and learning different strategies, so that when you get back into it, you have new ideas on how you can play it. Just kind of finding those different ways of focusing your energy into control.
Right. Yeah. Like how quickly can I change my focus from, okay, here's the, hit the fan. And then, in my life, but this isn't defining me. This thing that happened isn't who I am. And how do I now just say, I'm going to be defined by my comeback story, what I do with this and how I inspire others. This happened to me, but this isn't going to define me. Here's what I'm doing instead. And if you turn your focus to inspiring other people, with the things that you're able to accomplish, the holes you're able to pull yourself out of, and show them the way. I think that's also another source of happiness, is being able to inspire other people with your own story. Like, hey, I was in the same situation you were in, and here I am now, showing people that it is possible, to get out of that space, to get out of that hole and do something amazing. and and continuing to search for what that amazing thing is. That's kind of what it's all about, is not that focus on I'm stewing around over here with what happened. It's like, okay, what else, what's on my radar here, what's my purpose, what's my next goal, what's my next dream. And you have to keep searching, you have to keep trying to find out what that is, and then move the ball forward every single day.
Totally, 100%. And so kind of along that same line and the same concept of overcoming hardships and not being defined by them, on your website, I read about your concept of GRIT, like GRIT, the acronym. So tell us more about this concept and how anyone, especially teens, can tap into it to improve their perseverance.
Okay, yeah. So my acronym for GRIT is going the distance, quietly persevering. So that means that not everything's going to happen at once. A lot of great things happen over time. The quiet, slow perseverance every day, doing the little things that are going to matter. And then the U is unwavering in your patience and faith. So believing that it's going to be possible. But then also, taking those calculated risks, is the T, and shattering the norm. So, I think, grittiness takes a couple of forms, the day-to-day quiet perseverance, the training, the dedication, the showing up for practice, the doing your homework, the, just doing the things that you need to do, like not the big stadium things where everybody's watching, the little things that when no one is watching, like, are you doing the important things? Are you studying? Are you going to practice? Are you training? And then also, then also taking those calculated risks, shattering the norm, doing something that you never believed imaginable, or coming up with something really creative, and just taking that risk. So, I think, there's two different forms. I think a lot of people think of grittiness as, like this crazy out of the box, thinking. But I think there's more important kind of grittiness, and that's the day-to-day quiet perseverance. The little things that are going to get you to your goal, and staying focused on those. You can't take that big leap forward into getting a goal without the homework, without the work, without the stuff that you got to do. Like, again, my imagery in my brain is just moving that ball a couple inches forward, every single day. I think that's, a grittiness that we can all embrace, because it's not the big things, it's the little things that are going to matter. When you have a really big goal, it's the little things that matter. So, don't get wrapped around the axle that something big didn't happen. Did you do something little, that is going to make a difference? And, you have to check that box every day. There's no real days off when it comes to goals and purpose. Some days you do bigger things, but every day you do a little thing at the very least.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the idea of just discipline over, I know sometimes we get these like spurts of like motivation and I want to do this, and that's great. And I think it's important to have those. But when we're disciplined, and instead of only doing it when you feel motivated and saying, hey, I'm only going to do this when I feel like it, because that can be sporadic. We're not going to feel like doing it every single day. But real progress only happens when we're consistently doing it every single day. And it might feel uncomfortable some days, but I feel like once we push through it on that one uncomfortable day, we can look the next and say, I still did it when I didn't want to yesterday, and I made it through and I made progress, and I'm really proud of myself for that. I can do it again today. And the next time that you feel really, really unmotivated, you know that you can still do it, and that this goal is still achievable even when you're feeling like you really, really don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where the discipline comes in. It's easy to, on the days where you feel super motivated, it's easy. That you don't need to be super disciplined on that day. The discipline comes in when you don't actually want to do something. That's where I always say, like, your commitment starts when the fun stops. But it's cool and it's fun. It's like, yay, this is great. We're having a great time. I'm doing these cool things, but where you find out if you're really committed is when it's not fun anymore. Like, it's not fun on that day. You're like, okay, now that I have to have this commitment to whatever. It's like, go to the gym. But that when you've done that, you're going to be so happy when you leave. And you're going to be so, like, no one ever said, I'm so bummed I went to the gym today, or I'm so bummed I went on that long walk today. That's never happened. So, so that's why it's like, you just got to take the first step, just get out the door and just say to yourself, like, say it's going for a walk. Just, if you don't want to, like, I'm just going to walk around the block today. I'm not going to walk my 5 miles. I'm just going to walk around the block. But then by the time you walk around the block, you're like, oh, I got this, and then you want to keep going, so it's just like, get out the door, just get started and see how you feel, but go out, get out the door.
Totally. It's like that feeling of like inertia. You need to first get a little bit of movement and then you'll get the ball rolling. You just need to get out that door. And I know that you've spoken a lot about setting these amazing and meaningful goals, but how can we set them without getting overwhelmed?
Well, it's the small chunks. You don't like, if you're not a runner, you don't start with a marathon. Like, you start with, okay, I'm gonna walk this 5K, and then when you've accomplished that successfully, like, okay, I'm now gonna run a 5K, and so, just, you have to make your goals achievable and small, especially at first, until you get a handle on, what your capabilities are. I think sometimes we get this like crazy wild hair and go, okay, and of course my brain works in endurance sports analogies, but like some people who've never done an athletic thing in their life go, okay, I'm going to do an Ironman. I'm going to do an Ironman triathlon. And it's like, okay, yes, and that's cool and all, but start with this. How about run a 5K first, and and then you have to you build up to. It's great to have that bigger goal, but that is very much overwhelming. And I think a lot of times people, they overshoot on their big goal. It's like, that one can be out there. That can be my 18-month or my 2-year goal. But what's my next month goal? What's my quarterly goal? What's my goal for the 6 months? And, I think it's okay to pick a very big goal, something like that's out there, but you have to have the discipline again, to find out what the smaller chunks are, to chunkify it. Boom, 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 boom. And then it's going to come down to, what am I doing today? And so that's where the planning, the training, maybe it's, you get an expert or a coach who has been there, done that. You join a club of people who've been there, done that, and you get a plan together. And when you have a plan together and it's down to each day, it's not overwhelming. It's like, okay, here's my training plan. Here's what I'm going to do today. And you know that when you do the little things every day, it's going to add up to the big thing. But, to keep from being overwhelmed, you have to make the chunks. You got to put the training plan together, and you don't have to do it alone. You find someone who's been there, done that. Like my first Ironman, my first several, I didn't train for him alone. I was training with a guy we were about the same speed. He was 25 years older than me. And he was really good at the training. And so every day I showed up like I did for gymnastics. I just showed up at his house at 7:00 every morning. I was like, okay, what are we doing today? And he had a training plan for every single day. Some day it was, swimming, biking, running, whatever it was, but he had the plan. And there's no way I could have, done that on my own. You can go online, you can figure out an Ironman training plan, but I needed him for, the motivation, the discipline to show up every day at 7:30, to have a teammate who, if I was sucking, he was there. I couldn't fix my bike, and so it was all of these, this combination of things that, the discipline, the training plan, the teammates, the small chunks, then it's so much less overwhelming, because, you have little goals, you have a team, you have accomplishable, I just made up a word, goals, that you can, that you can succeed in every day. And that's where a lot of happiness comes from, is you go out the door every day, you have your goals, you have your plan, you have your teammate. And then, by the time it's afternoon and it's time for you to, eat, recover, chill, like you're so proud of yourself, like you're so happy with what you did that day. And, I think it's important for us to have that little bit of, just satisfaction with ourselves, and our ability to drive through tough things, and our ability to drive for goals and to have that sense of purpose. Like, it's so great at the end of the day to go, I did epic stuff today. You know?
I love that so much. And I think that what you mentioned there about like planning ahead, like have a big goal, like even looking ahead at a new year, right? Like have a big goal that you want to accomplish, or even like by the time I graduate high school or by the time I hit XYZ, I want to do this. But then plan for little milestone goals in between so that you know how you're going to get there, like kind of scaffold it almost. Like don't just say, oh, I'm going to, do an Ironman, or I'm going to get into a top medical school, or I'm going to, get onto the national soccer team. Like, what are you going to do in between to really, really get there? Because it does take time, and you can't just leap from A to Z right away. You need to kind of plan in between.
And it's kind of hard to think, okay, I'm going to run an Ironman, but I've never really done anything that active before. Maybe I did a little bit of sports when I was younger. And then just to jump into that, because you're going to be a fish out of water. You're not exactly sure what you're doing, and you're not in the right shape or mindset for that. And you're also probably not really going to feel comfortable doing it. So kind of building up to that, it's okay to feel uncomfortable, but like doing it so that, you know that you can do it.
And also plan for challenges. Like, going into any situation, there's going to be challenges. And I think a great way to persevere better is to kind of account for that ahead of time. Like, what am I going to do if this happens? Or what am I going to do if I lose motivation? Or what am I going to do if, I get injured or something? Like, plan ahead and know that having important teammates is having strong teammates is going to help me. So how can I kind of network that?
Yeah, and people who've been there, done that.
Exactly. A mentor or someone to give you advice will help you persevere as well. So kind of just planning ahead for that. And so taking it back, Robyn, to when you were a teenager, what is one piece of advice that you wish you could give your teenage self?
I mean, I think understanding that my peak and my strength and my talent was going to happen a lot later, and to not be worried, at the moment that I wasn't, I didn't necessarily, look like a lot of other kids. I mean, in high school, I looked like I was about 12 years old. But I was okay with that, because I didn't really, I didn't care that much, but at the time, I think, to understand, your success, like, you're not going to peak here in high school. It's like, following this path that I was on of, kind of slowly moving forward towards different goals, in school, in life. And, it was like my strength, my talent was going to be better utilized much later in life. And to just, keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing. Don't get distracted. And keep doing what you're doing, because, I've been able to accomplish so many different things in so many different areas, from business to, to sports. And it was because of that ability to focus, to keep having big goals and to focus. And, and so I feel like I was actually on a good path since I was a kid, because I didn't care too much about what anybody else thought of me. I just never crossed my mind. I was like, well, I have these big goals and dreams. Like, I got big stuff to do here. I got a competition. I got to get an A on this test. I just stayed very internal. And I know it's harder for you guys, all the social media, and like, all I knew was what the kid next door thought of me. And I didn't give a rat's. But now you guys, like, you have to know what the entire world thinks of you, like on social media. But if you're on a good path, like you guys are, if you're on a good path to your future, you're doing great things, you're inspiring other people, you're making yourself proud of yourself every day. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's great when they're with you and they're supportive of you, but the negative people, they're not on your path. They're not on your journey. They're heading for a completely different finish line. And that's okay. And the other thing I tell kids, and like all my nieces and nephews, I'm like, okay, unless you're in an adventure race, nothing that happens after 11 o'clock at night is something you're going to be proud of. So go home. Like, don't stay out late at night, because dumb stuff happens at night. you know, go to bed early, get ready for the next day. You have your own goals and dreams, you know, but very rarely are you proud of yourself for things that happen after 11 o'clock at night.
Those are two really great pieces of
Totally.
advice. And I think it's so important to, you know, kind of just buckle down and focus on your goals and not really pay attention to that external noise, especially when you're in high school. I think there's people taking out their own insecurities a lot on others. And so it's important to really be able to kind of know yourself and know who you are. And it sounds like you really always had that, which is so admirable and something I think a lot of teenagers need to work on, including us sometimes, is like know who you are and really follow that and have like a strong internal compass, you know? And I think that's important.
A question that we love to ask is, what brings you a small bit of happiness every day?
My dog. Just the goals and dreams. Like every single day that I can remember, I've always had something I knew that it was going to be important to do the next day, whether it was training or a conference call for work or something to build my business or somebody else that I was going to be able to help. You know, I think it's important. Like it brings me a happiness every day to get up, and I always do the hard stuff first, whatever the hard stuff is, whether it's like I have a hard training day, you know, that morning, or I have, you know, some like nerve-wracking conference calls I have to go through, or I have to have a discussion with some of the people in my company. Like I always do the hard stuff first. And that way by like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, you know, you can do the fun things, you know, the relaxing things, you know, but you have to, you know, you got to earn it, you know? So, I mean, I think, yeah, coming out of the gates with a mission every single day and not just waking up and going, what am I going to do today? Like you have to know what that is. Like I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and boom, this is the first thing and the second thing and the third thing I'm going to do. So yeah, I think it just brings me happiness to always, first thing, move the ball down the field.
Exactly. You know, just always be pushing and growing.
Yeah, exactly, and being productive.
And so tell us about your dog, because we love dogs too, and I think they're a great source of happiness. What kind of dog do you have?
She's a random mutt thing, and I just love her so much. She's what does she look like? She looks like sort of like a Chinese crested, you know, she's like a hairy, hairless Chinese crested. And no, she's the most adorable thing. And she can actually speak with just like her little body language and her eyes, and like she just talks to me all day, and she's my soul dog. But I know, so I also want to have an animal sanctuary someday, and it's because of her name's Valentine. So I want to have an animal sanctuary called Valentine Ranch and rescue dogs and train them for agility competitions. And so like that's another way to like, you know, sort of keep athletic on my end and keep training, but train, you know, rescue dogs.
Totally, that sounds so sweet.
Very cool, and I love how you want to name your rescue ranch after Valentine. I think that's so sweet.
Yeah, tell me about your dog.
Yeah, we have a chocolate lab named Coco. She is very big into relaxing as well.
Yeah, she's a big sleeper.
Yeah, she loves sleeping, especially near the heaters in the house. So
yes. And so kind of on a final note, Robyn, you are such a source of motivation and inspiration to us and to so many people out there. And so do you have a specific motivational quote that you love and remember? And if so, what is its significance to you?
There's one that I think about a lot, about kind of mutual respect and loyalty among teammates. And it's a quote by Carl Menninger. And it's that loyalty means not that I agree with everything you say or that I believe you're always right. Loyalty means that we share a common ideal with each other, and that regardless of minor differences, we strive for it, shoulder to shoulder, confident in one another's good faith, trust, constancy, and affection. And I think it's important to have that loyalty to the people on our teams. It doesn't mean we always have to agree with each other. You know, it just means that we constantly build that foundation, you know, of trust and respect by having each other's back, shutting down gossip, believing the best in each other. when you've built that foundation of trust and respect, you can have these little disagreements and discussions and things that happen on the surface, but you have to build it. You have to believe the best in each other. You have to have each other's back. You have to not allow gossip about each other. And, I think that's when you are on a great team, those are the things that you have, in common, is that loyalty. And so, I think that's a really, really big thing. When you find a teammate that you have that loyalty with, hang on to them.
I love that. I love focusing on, instead of letting small things get in the way, focusing on the bigger picture. And instead of saying, hey, they don't agree with me on this small, tiny aspect of everything, that's fine, because you don't have to be the exact same person. As long as you both align morally and you have the same ideas and goals and visions, as long as you still feel like you can work together and you feel like it's a good fit, and on top of that, you don't allow that kind of gossip to get in between each other, you motivate each other, you uplift each other, then it's a good fit, and that's what loyalty is.
And I think with relationships and with friendships and teammates, and even if it's like you're not, striving for the same thing, but maybe you're in the same class and you're working together, or you're, going through a school program together, it's like once you find someone who you really click with, like really hold on to them and like, be willing to not get caught up in those small things in order to preserve that relationship, because it's not every day you find someone that you connect with so well. And I think that's a very important reminder when we get caught up in those small little negative moments. It's just like, It's not worth it.
And believe the best. Believe the best in each other.
Exactly. And so where can our audience find you if they want to keep up and learn more?
Okay, so Project Athena is projectathena.org. And that's where you can sign up for one of our adventures, or just see some of our cool videos about our survivors creating their comeback stories. You can find me at worldclassteams.com. Worldclassteams.com, or my name, Robyn Benincasa, and it's Robyn with a Y.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been so inspiring, and thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for inviting me. And are you coming with me on a Project Athena adventure?
Hopefully someday, yes.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, and thank you so much to Robyn for joining us today.
I absolutely loved all of her incredible experiences as an adventure racer, and how she takes the lessons she's learned as an adventure racer and applies them to everyday life. Anastasia, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway is that you need to be consistently working on your goals every single day, even if it's a little bit challenging. And do those challenging things first, so then you can relax and enjoy that rest. What about you, Mercedes?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things that I learned from Robyn today is the importance of good teammates. When we have people who believe in us, we believe in ourselves, and we can accomplish really great goals, get through challenges, and just feel happier as well. And so even if you're having like a minor dispute or a little conflict or a disagreement with someone that you are working with or friends with, just try your best to focus on the big goal, the big things you're trying to achieve, your big relationship, and get over those small little disputes, because in the end, they're not worth losing someone really important in your life over.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, make sure to leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate it.
Also, be sure to join our happiness family. It's completely free. We would love to have you, and that way you'll never miss another episode of Hack Your Happiness. You can join by following Hack Your Happiness on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now.
See you next time.